Hello and welcome to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's video, I will be covering several days here in a very active pattern of severe weather all the way through the rest of this week and into much of next week here as well. I'll also be looking longer range here at those who are wanting a spring and summer warm up here. I do promise that is on the way, and I'll cover all that here in my video here today. So looking here, we got a lot to get to, a lot to unpack here, so bear with me through the video here. Do subscribe to my channel if you are new, because I will be covering all of the weather from coast to coast here across the country. Also do like my video, give me a nice thumbs up, and leave in your comments and questions below. So let's get to it here today. We got here maximum temperatures today all the way up into the 80s across much of the southeast, some lower 90s down toward Georgia, Alabama, and Florida, some 90s being shown across south central portions there of Texas, and then some cooler air up into the north here as a storm system here with some rainfall across northern Illinois, getting back here across Iowa, and then up into the northern and central plains here as well. Looking at the current alerts here today, we do also have red flag warnings continuing across much of New Mexico, southern Colorado, and the northeastern portions there of Arizona, and to far west Texas. That is due to the ongoing drought conditions, the dry soil. So do here be mindful if you are grilling down there or if you're having any campfires, do kind of prohibit that type of activity inhibit doing that here as we head into today and into the rest of the week. Some dry weather down in those areas. But looking at the severe weather aspect of things, we do have a marginal to a slight risk of severe weather here in a few different pockets here today. The main area is up into the southern and central portions of Ohio, southwestern Pennsylvania, northern West Virginia, getting back into your portions there of Kentucky as well. Another marginal risk here across portions of southern Virginia into northern North Carolina here, and then eastern portions of Texas, West Texas into the Panhandle, and then down into South Texas with a little slight risk zone down there toward the Mexican border. So a lot of different areas here today of some severe potential. Like I said, the main area up here into the Ohio Valley areas, into the south central Ohio, getting back here into Kentucky, could have a potential here of an isolated tornado, and also getting into Virginia and South Texas. And then here, general wind risk across these areas for hail and wind kind of going along with the slight and marginal risk zones, with kind of a 5 to 15% wind risk across portions of the Ohio Valley. Looking at the setup across the Ohio Valley, we got dew points here climbing into the upper 50s to low 60s, maybe some mid 60s, all the way up into the state of Ohio, getting into portions there of Indiana, Kentucky, and that will be driven by some instability as well here. We got instability values growing to around 1,000 to locally 2,000 joules per kilogram as we head into the Tennessee Valley, up into the Ohio Valley areas as we head into late this afternoon, early evening. And then we do get some shear, some lower level and mid-level shear coming in out of the southwest and west southwest, kind of with the instability in place as well, overlapping. So we will have some severe weather kind of centered, like I said, on south central Ohio, getting into northern Kentucky and into southwestern PA, and into portions there of northern portions there of West Virginia. Looking at the late afternoon here, kind of composite reflectivity on what the radar could look like. We got some scattering of some cells up here into the portions of the northern Ohio Valley, into the lower Great Lakes as well. We got some scattering here of a couple of isolated cells into southern portions of Ohio, getting into portions there of West Virginia. And then these will start to become more numerous as we head toward very late this afternoon, early evening here as they push off to the east. And any one of these cells could be capable of producing an isolated tornado, perhaps even here some damaging gusts up to 60 to 65 miles per hour, and even here some small to medium-sized hail, maybe some isolated large hail as well, with some of these here higher, stronger type of tops of these storms, especially as we get into south central Ohio, where all that instability and that shear will kind of be overlapping. Then these storms will kind of walk themselves out as we head into here late this evening, and then that will put an end to the severe weather risk for those areas as we head into tonight. Now, looking farther south into those areas that I was talking about, into Texas here, into East Texas, Southern Texas, and the Texas Panhandle, a couple of cells could be popping up, especially down toward the Mexican border, with some very large hail as we head into late this afternoon, early evening. Maybe a couple cells into eastern portions there of Texas, maybe a couple of them into South Texas as well. Then they'll kind of fade away here. They'll be very slow movers across these areas here As we head into the evening hours, there's not a lot of shears there, but a lot more cape with instability up to around 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram across South Texas. Then looking ahead, we got another kind of severe weather setup with a potential another kind of severe weather outbreak type of setup as we head into our Wednesday tomorrow. The day 2 categorical outlook from the Storm Prediction Center does paint a level 3 out of 5, an enhanced risk of severe weather across south central portions there of Oklahoma, northwest Texas, eastern Texas Panhandle, and getting down into North Texas as well. This does include the Oklahoma City metro area, getting down toward Wichita Falls, Denton, Texas, the northern end there of the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex, and then getting over toward the Lubbock area in Midland, Texas as well. We do have a significant hatch 10% tornado risk across southern portions and southwestern portions there of Oklahoma into far north Texas and northwest Texas, kind of along that Red River there. You can see Wichita Falls is in there, also here into Oklahoma City, Lawton, Fort Sill. Those areas here do be on high alert for the potential of those EF2 or stronger type tornadoes here as we head into tomorrow afternoon. Even some tornado risk extending down into West Texas as well, but a lower 5 to a 2% risk down into West Texas around the Lubbock area, getting down toward Fort Stockton and here into portions of Midland, Texas as well. Then another hatched risk for hail of 2 inches to potentially up to 4-inch diameter hail as we head here into our afternoon and evening here across much of the state of Oklahoma, across southwestern and central Oklahoma, including Oklahoma City, Fort Sill, Lawton, and then getting over toward El Reno, and then getting back down toward the eastern here Texas Panhandle into northwest and northern Texas around Wichita Falls, the Denton area, the northwest side of the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex, and getting over towards Lubbock, Texas, and Midland as well, with a kind of a 15 to 30% hatched hail risk of those very large hailstones, like I said, up to about 4 inches in diameter. Then a general kind of 15% wind risk across most of Oklahoma and northwest and central Texas. So looking at the setup as we head into tomorrow afternoon, we got a lot of moisture here feeding in from the western Gulf. We got a lot of low to mid 70 dew points across central and eastern Texas. On the northern end of this, all the stronger instability and kind of all the stronger moisture plume here into Texas, we will have that strongest severe weather with a dry line coming in across the western panhandle of Texas during the late afternoon. We got dew points in the mid to upper 50s, approaching the mid 60s across these areas here as the dew points will be surging. And along and immediately ahead of that dry line that'll be slowly pushing to the east, we will have a lot of strong instability on the order of 3,000 to locally 4,000 joules per kilogram here as we head into our Wednesday afternoon, and that will foster the threat here for some severe weather. Now, there is one caveat to this here early on for supercellular activity of storms, is that here we will have a cap on the atmosphere, a very strong, very stout cap on the atmosphere across northwest Texas, eastern Texas Panhandle, and the southwestern Oklahoma. This should be eroded as we have a lot of lift, a lot of shear coming in here from the west with that dry line, and you can see that lift very pronounced, especially to west central Texas into the Texas Panhandle here, a lot of lift along that dry line. And when you got these strong shear values coming in out of the west southwest, that should be able to be enough to overcome with that cap, even though it's very strong across these areas into northwest Texas as we head into late Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday night across these areas. Looking at the significant tornado parameter, these values are pretty high here, knowing we're a day out still, especially across southwestern and central Oklahoma, getting down especially into far north Texas, into northwest Texas as well, maybe even the eastern Texas Panhandle. I did take a sounding here on the northern end of this Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex here, so areas like Denton, McKinney, Texas, getting up here towards the Red River, up towards portions here of Wichita Falls. I did take a sounding here on the northern end of the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex, and it does show a possible hazard tag of a PDS tornado. A decent looking hodograph here, not the best I've ever seen, but a decent looking hodograph. I mean, there's a lot of curvature and elongation with that, and it is showing classic type of supercell here, profiles here in the atmosphere. Like I said, the low levels, we will have the cap where you see that red and green come together, but that should be broken. Not looking at too much of a large hail risk around the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex, just due to the fact that there's not a lot of drier air here being shown in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere. So the hail growth zone is not very big, but you could have some bigger hail at times. We do have the winds coming in on the northern end of the Dallas-Fort Worth area here, out of the southeast here at the surface, but very strong speed shear here, and turning with height as we head into the low and mid levels of the atmosphere, turning to the southwest and then west southwest here as you go to the mid levels, and some very strong cape values here around 3,000 to 4,000 joules per kilogram. will again be supportive of this PDS type of tornado setup along the northern end here of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, getting into Oklahoma and northwest Texas. So let's walk you through the composite reflectivity. We've got some ongoing storms late in the afternoon. We got to watch these storms on the southern flank where we could have some supercells, maybe some tornadoes here. Then more supercells will develop as we head towards very late afternoon toward the dinner time period. And these will kind of push east toward Dallas. Got to watch these cells here once again. These discrete supercells could be the ones that could produce those large, violent tornado potential as we head toward late afternoon. Then as we head toward the evening, we got here a cold front coming in from the north and west, and a surging kind of bowing out segment here of storms across northwestern portions of Oklahoma, tailing its way down here into portions of northwest Texas, kind of almost following the same type of path that here squall line did yesterday, and this will kind of drop south toward the better instability into portions of southeastern Oklahoma, far northern and northeast Texas, as we head into late here nighttime period. These might not arrive to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex here till mid-morning or early morning on Thursday. So this will be kind of an overnight type of setup with some very strong gusty winds, also some hail, and maybe even an isolated tornado threat as we head toward even the late night hours. So do want to have multiple ways to receive warnings if you are in those locations here across Texas and southern Oklahoma as we head here into our Wednesday night and early Thursday morning. Then as we head into Thursday, the day 3 categorical outlook, the Storm Prediction Center has painted a large day 3 enhanced risk, level 3 of 5, from southern Missouri all the way through the entire state roughly here of Arkansas, far western Tennessee and northwestern portions there of Mississippi, northern Louisiana and northeast Texas. This does include Little Rock, Jonesboro, getting up here toward Cape Girardeau and Missouri, getting back towards Fort Smith, Arkansas here, Shreveport, Texarkana, those areas, and even some severe risk extending down toward the Dallas-Fort Worth area and the slight risk as well, and then portions down here towards, the College Station area, getting over toward Jackson, Mississippi. Memphis, Tennessee is also included in that enhanced risk as well. That slight risk does include here portions of southwestern Illinois toward the St. Louis area and the Carbondale area here as well. Looking kind of at the probabilities, just a general, the 5, 15, and 30% probabilities for severe weather on our Thursday. We do have a lot of moisture pooling up from the Gulf of Mexico. We got the cold front surging in from the west, and that will be prime setup for instability here. That will be on the order of 2,000 plus joules per kilogram, higher instability into Texas, Louisiana, southern Arkansas here, and maybe even Mississippi as we head into Thursday afternoon. A lot of shear here, kind of being modulated a little bit by that incoming squall line and bowing structure here into portions of Texas, but still some very strong shear across those enhanced and slight risk areas. And we are looking at a little bit of some tornado potential, especially across south central Arkansas, northern and northwestern Louisiana, far east Texas here as we head toward Thursday afternoon. So do have to watch that. That squall line will start to fall apart as we head toward Thursday afternoon, but then here we'll start to re-intensify as we head toward the evening hours as a strong mid and low level jet punch into these storms here from the south and west. And with the surging cold front coming in from the west, another MCS or mesoscale convective system is likely to across most of the state of Arkansas, southern portions of Missouri, getting into western Tennessee, northwestern portions of Mississippi, northern here Louisiana into East Texas. These storms into East Texas could be the large hail producers, could be those potential tornado makers as we head toward the evening hours, kind of on the southern end of that MCS here coming through from the west. And then this will start to move to the east as it moves towards the Tennessee Valley and the southeast. So it'll kind of fall apart as it outruns the better instability and the better shear here with these storms, with the system here as we push towards Friday morning. Now looking at the upper level kind of heights with this system here with kind of the vorticity, a lot of the, you can shows a lot of the, upper level spin here in the atmosphere. That low pressure system will continue up through the Ohio Valley here into the Midwest. And that'll continue pushing east. Then we kind of reestablish the upper levels here with kind of a zonal flow for here as we head toward the weekend. But then this will start to turn more southwesterly flow aloft here across the middle of the country as we head toward early next week. Another massive trough digging down here into the desert southwest toward California, bringing maybe some rainfall into portions of California as well. And then this will kind of elongate and stretch toward portions here of the northern plains and toward the Intermountain West as we head into the early next week. And that will allow here the ridge developing across the eastern half of the country to really amplify a lot of warmer weather here developing. And then here that trough will kind of still elongate and stretch all the way into southern Canada, into western Ontario as we head into our Wednesday as well. And this will continue here all the way through the end of next week before eventually that trough will eject into the middle of the country, and that may bring another widespread mode of severe weather into the central and plains up toward the upper Mississippi Valley as we head to late next week and the following weekend. So looking kind of here at the longer term, you can see I'll show you the values of temperatures and what the dew points could look like going longer range into early in the middle of next week. We got a lot of 90s across Texas here. Those dew points will be surging here as well into the lower 70s across this area toward here Saturday evening. Then as we head to Sunday, that ridge starts to slowly creep northward and start to build here. A lot of 90s, maybe even some triple-digit temperatures across the panhandle of Texas, 100 degrees down toward Phoenix. We got 70s all the way up into portions of Nebraska, northern Kansas, getting into western portions of Missouri. Dew points will be surging into the 60s across the central plains as we head into our Sunday evening. And then again, that trough will continue to kind of dive down and kind of amplify this, ridge. We got a lot of 60s and 70s all the way up toward the international border here on our Sunday. Temperatures could be a near 100 degrees down toward here, just west of the Dallas-Fort Worth area here towards, Amarillo, Texas, as we head into portions of our Sunday here. So do watch that. And we got dew points here to the east of that dry line. Look at that, those dew points into the mid 70s across the southern plains and the portions of the central plains and mid south. But look at that dry line here. We do have a lot of negative here values of dew points into portions of the panhandle of Texas, getting down into eastern portions there of New Mexico. A lot of dry air, so there could be some fire weather concerns down in those areas with the ongoing severe and extreme and exceptional drought down in those areas. And then this will surge all the way up here. We got to have 70s and low 80s as far north as southeastern North Dakota, southwestern portions there of Minnesota. Hundreds again down into Texas here, and those dew points will be surging all the way up toward the Canadian provinces here, potentially some lower 50 dew points into southwestern Ontario, southern portions there of Canada as we head here into our Monday evening. And then a cold front and eventually a trough ejection toward the middle of the week next week will kind of put an end to a little bit of the more extreme warmth here, but still a lot of warmth across the middle of the country toward next week, with dew points could be in the middle to upper 70s into the mid-Mississippi Valley down through the Missouri Valley during the middle of next week. So I kind of wanted to give you a picture of how that all could kind of play out, not verbatim, but here kind of giving you a general idea of what here we can expect going into next week toward the middle of May. That also will come with the risk of severe weather here and the transition from the cooler weather to the warmer weather. We got warm advection and moist advection driven severe weather here on our day 6 outlook here from the Storm Prediction Center. Mainly hail here is going to be the concern as we have a lot kind of elevated thunderstorms pushing up from the north here. These storms will be moving northeast across the Kansas City area, central and eastern Kansas, southeastern Nebraska, southwest Iowa, western portions of Missouri. Got a lot of here moisture pooling up here across these areas into the 60s, low 70s on our Sunday. A lot of shear overlapping here into Iowa, Missouri, and portions of Nebraska and Kansas here as well. And you can see some kind of a wing of precipitation here can be expected across those areas as they move from southwest to northeast. Mainly large hail, elevated thunderstorms here across this risk area, and these will kind of push up to the northeast here. We could have some 2-inch hail potential, however, into those areas, so we'll have to watch that. And then as we head into our day 7, the Storm Prediction Center has already outlined 7 days out a slight risk of severe weather from central and western Iowa down through southwestern portions of Minnesota, southeastern South Dakota, eastern Nebraska, northeast Kansas, northwestern portions of Missouri. This could be expanding and also here upgraded as well. We'll have to watch for that. But again, some large hail potential, maybe some strong winds in these areas. Not looking too much at a tornado threat here for this time at this time, but here we'll continue to monitor that threat as we head a little bit closer. Especially when you got a lot of low-level moisture here in the low 70s. Cannot discount the tornado threat just yet, but still here a lot of moisture here coming to these areas. We do have a lot of shear coming in, rounding the base of that massive trough. So this could be a bigger day of severe weather across the upper Midwest here. We'll have to watch that here as we head into early next week. That will be on our Monday. Now, the European doesn't get too excited about any here, type of severe weather or really any here storms firing, maybe due to a cap on the atmosphere here across the upper Midwest. We'll just have to monitor that as it gets closer. But if storms do fire, some strong winds, maybe an isolated tornado or two, and even here some very large hail will be the main mode of severe weather, maybe up to 2-inch hail again into the upper Midwest with all that here kind of warm advection here kind of pushing up to the north. with those storms in early next week. But in general, the next 7 days, several inches of rain can be expected here from the southern and central plains into the mid here Missouri Valley, getting in toward the southern Great Lakes on the order of 1 to 3+ inches here. And looking here at the and we are looking kind of at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center here, showing that massive here ridge off to the east portions here of the country with a lot of likely above normal temperatures from the Great Lakes down through here the Missouri Valley into the southern and central plains, where that massive trough is here off to the west. We do have a lot of cooler temperature anomalies, likely to expected to be below normal across the Intermountain West and much of the western half of the country as we head towards all the way through Thursday, May 12th. And that does signify here's likely above normal precipitation, especially up into the northern plains, the central plains, getting down toward Texas as well, parts of the Intermountain West, where drier than normal conditions can be expected, with that ridge continuing to the east here into the northeast, the mid-Atlantic, and getting down toward the Tennessee Valley as well, and portions of drier weather into California here as well, going all the way through Thursday, May 12th. Then looking a little farther, 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, that ridge will slowly push to the east, and eventually here that trough will eject toward the middle of the country, toward the middle of the month. Still some likely above normal temperatures across most of the eastern half of the country, with the western half here into the Intermountain West, the northern plains getting down to the Four Corners, likely slightly below normal here across those areas as well, with another ridge starting to be reestablished across the California region, the California coast, as we head towards Monday here, May 16th. And that could be another ridge that will push into the middle of the country towards late in May, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But continued wetter than normal conditions across much of the upper Midwest, the mid-Mississippi Valley, getting down the central and southern plains, drier than normal into the northeast, and much drier than normal across the west here, into portions of California, Nevada, getting up here toward the Four Corners region, and the Pacific Northwest going through Monday, May 16th as well. So I know there's a lot to get to here. Thank you for watching my video. Do be sure to like my video, give me a thumbs up, leave any of your comments and questions below, and do remember here to subscribe to my channel here to catch all the latest forecast updates as you go along through the spring and summer season. Now, thank you for watching, and have a great Tuesday, everybody.